All right. And we are live. All right. Welcome everybody. Hope everybody's been having a good weekend. I want to jump on today to talk about Tesla to $2,000 a share. I want to talk about earnings. I want to talk about a recent trip I was just on. Why Tesla is now officially seen as an AI company, and much more. So much to talk about. This will be different than the other content you've seen on earnings or anything like that. Look, I'm not here to get into the numbers. There's plenty of other people to go over that. I'm here to provide a perspective from some in tech, from an engineer, from a big time all in Tesla invest, and just kind of share with you some of the stuff that got me excited when I was listening to this call. If you guys missed it, we had our mega live stream. We had we had Farzad, had obviously Yash who was on, Matt and Emmett were on. We even James Stevenson dropped by. Alexandra Mers came on. So lots of good stuff. So let's see. You're saying you're in the echo. Let me make sure things good on my end. Yep. Sorry, there might be a little echo. Let me change some stuff. All right. Well, might have the echo a little bit here. See if I can set this. 1 second. All right. Any more echo? Still echo? Let me know. If I'll just switch my mic. Gonna wait here for a second. I'll chat a little bit. Hope echo dies down here. Don't know why that would be happening. Let's change a couple other things. See if this stops. Still echo. All right, hold on 1 second. Okay. Do you guys still hear an echo? If you do, I'll switch mics. Okay. Hold on. Sorry about that, guys. Give me 1 second. Is it better? Echo? Better? I'm gonna you sound like all right. I'm gonna assume that the echo. Let me see if I stick or not. I'll keep looking at the comments. You guys let me know. Anyways, that's always fun. What happens when you go away for a while and you back and you try to get your rig all set up again. As I was saying before, if you guys heard or if you guys watched the stream, like I said, we had a bunch of great time. We experienced it together. It's all right. Let me switch back. Testing. Okay. All right. Okay. Let me know if this is any better at all. If not, then I'm just gonna have to keep going on anyways. Best audio is no audio. All right, I'm gonna keep this here. Audio is fine now. Okay, well, this won't be convenient, but we'll live with it. At least it's better now than what it was before. So let's get on with this. Thanks everybody for your patience and letting me know. Um, so so I got to figure that out. That's annoying. Anyways, so like I was saying, I want to talk about Tesla. I know there's lots of great content out there about the earnings and the numbers and all that. I have no interest in talking about that anymore. Yes, I am still all in on Tesla. Outside of real estate, I own. It's funny. I was actually talking to a I don't give her name away, but she's a big Tesla investor, and we were chatting a little bit today about real estate and Tesla. So yeah, still all in with Tesla. But what I want to talk about is this change in narrative with Tesla that I noticed during the earnings call from the analyst. And I really want to go over the earnings call and the slide deck and all that, but from my perspective. So again, not diving into the numbers, but things that I noticed, things that stood out to me as an all-in Tesla investor, as a guy who works in tech, as an engineer, and I guess more importantly, as somebody who loves to just flirt with that line of investing in tech, and that's why I'm in Tesla. So lots of things to go over. Let's start off by taking a look at just like 3 pages in the slide deck, because this is what I look at every time, right? Normally when it comes out, we do these mega streams with everyone. I let Farzad and Yashu, Emmett and Matt and all of them, Alexandra, rush over to all the numbers. And I want to show you what I look at. So when we're on there and you see us just sitting there chatting away, or everyone's like just like scrolling through, I'll show you what I'm looking at during that time. So here, I'm going to switch over the views here. And again, actually, before I get into that, let me apologize. We just got back from Boston. We were up there visiting family. We were there for the last week. That's why my background looked different during that mega stream. And we took the Model Y up there and back. So we got back, in the evening yesterday, and today's been, getting everything back to normal in the house, unpacking, things of that nature. Had to wash the car, obviously. So doing all that good stuff. But driving up to Boston and back, we have the hardware for Model Y Performance. So as you guys know, there's no FSD on it yet, FSD Beta. I paid for the full package, or we paid for the full package for FSD Beta, but they still haven't pushed that out to individuals or consumers yet. So I'm waiting for that one. So Elon, if you watch, please, please, please send it my way. Anyways, but even though I don't have beta yet, what we do have is navigate on autopilot. And I did the math going up there, navigate on autopilot did 96% of all the miles. All right. Like that's pretty impressive. This is navigate on autopilot, right? This isn't even the FSD beta stack. This is navigate on autopilot. Coming back, it did about 97%. The reason there was a little bit of a difference there was because we made a little stop in Manhattan going up. So that just shows you that this is real. This is possible. And what I'll say is it was extremely safe. What I noticed was the few times that I would take over from navigate on autopilot, I was more dangerous. I didn't stay in the lanes as well. I found myself like every once in a while, I would just like kind of go off to the edge a little bit here or there. It was just in general, it was just so much safer than not having it. And driving with it, it was such a better experience, right? Like I didn't even focus on the directions. Like that was kind of a different experience. Was you stop kind of thinking, oh, do I need to get on this highway? Do I need to get on that highway? It's like, that's changing lanes. It knows what it's doing, and we're going to get there. So that was very refreshing. And so imagine me, okay? This is the first very long road trip I've done in a Tesla. So all my FSD beta experience has only been kind of city driving, right? Everything I've done with FSD beta, it didn't really include highways or long trips. So imagine you're me, and you just did this 1,200-mile journey from Florida to Massachusetts, and the vehicle did about 96, 95% of all the driving. Then we get onto Tesla earnings call. And during this earnings call, there's a lot that stood out to me about where things are going and what's happening. And what's happening, very clearly, in my opinion, is that analysts are starting to understand that Tesla is an AI company. So before we dive into that, let me again share my screen with you. And we're going to talk through some of the stuff that I look at before analysts come on, before we start talking about numbers or anything. These are things I care about. So here, hopefully you guys can see this decently enough. Let me try if I can zoom in just a little bit more. Okay, so I like to come over here quickly onto this page. This is what, page 7, right? It's the one with this chart, right? This is what I'm always coming to look at. And I'll just zoom into this chart real quick because I always like to see what the differences are here and what's changed. And if you notice on the mega stream, this is one of the things I called out. Why? Because there's only like 3 things I tend to look at very in detail during those first few minutes. And so, nothing looked too different at first, right? California, Model S, Model X, 3Y, it's about 650 production. Shanghai, this we know this is sandbagging, 750,000. We know that they keep saying that Shanghai is essentially at max, that we shouldn't expect any more week over week increases in volume. They're doing about 1.2 million there annually. One of the first changes we notice is right here with the Berlin Model Y at 375,000 production. You can come over here and we'll look at this. This is from last quarter. We see 350 with a greater than sign. Here they dropped that sign. This is clear indication of what's happening with the expansion of Giga Berlin, right? They're going to expand it to essentially a million production car factory. And we'll talk about what they're going to be building there in a second here. You can see here, Model Y, Texas, did that change? Nope, did not change. Now let's see what did change, okay? So Cybertruck is still tooling, right? We can see that here, Cybertruck's still tooling. So it's not in production. So I know a lot of people were saying that first one rolled off the car. It means we're in production. No, that just means that they have completed the first full process of a Cybertruck from beginning to end going through the production line. Doesn't mean that's a production vehicle, right? So I would still say that's a, like early candidate, testing candidate, tooling process. The thing that stood out to me the most here was right here, various next-gen platforms in development. And this, I want you to focus on this next-gen platform, because if we come over here, notice that they just had Robotaxi and others, all right? Now, this was Q1, so not much has changed since Q1. I guess we did have, what was that in Q1 that we had the Tesla shareholder meeting or the Tesla Investor Day? I think it was actually. Okay, so maybe that was a reason why they changed this to just the next gen platform. But the next gen platform, in my opinion, is going to be heavy on robotaxis. And again, we'll dive into this in a second. And this is in development. But here, this term right here, various. What did they have before? If you look before, they had nothing. They just left it blank, right? So essentially to be decided. And the reason this is such a big deal is because we did have I guess you'd call it a leak, if you will, or a accidental leak, if you will. So we had a Spaces with Walter Isaacson. Is that his name? I always get his name wrong. He's writing the biography for Elon Musk, right? And he spent like the last 3 years with Elon. And if his name's not Walter Isaacson, apologies. I just seem to always forget once I get onto this space. But he had mentioned on there that Elon has been kind of maniacal about the lines, et cetera, yada, yada, and getting ready for the next gen vehicle in Mexico and in Austin. And he talked about walking the line for it in Austin. Anyways, long and the short is that was the first indication that we would see this next gen vehicle built outside of Mexico, and that we would see it in Austin as well. Now, obviously, they're going to build it in other places, right? Like, this doesn't take rocket science to figure that out. But that was a big deal, because I'm now under the impression that they are working on a production line for the next gen vehicle, or maybe not a line, a parallel process. I don't know what you want to call it, but I believe that they're refining that in Austin. That way, when Mexico's built, it's ready to go. They already know what they're going to do. They've worked out a lot of the kinks. But because this says various, this ties back to Berlin, right? So essentially, what I'm reading here is that Model Y is done in Berlin. I don't think they'll be building much more than this 375. I think that the rest of the aggregate of the 1 million is going to fall down to this next gen platform. And then we also see early talks with India. So it seems to me like they'll be built in India, they'll be built in Berlin, in Austin, and in Mexico, right? So I could see Mexico being a big export hub. I could see India being a big export hub. Berlin will handle Europe. Austin will handle United States, and we're done, right? That's all you need, right? Cost of labor is way lower in India and in Austin than what it is in China. So that makes a lot of sense, and it allows Tesla to hedge their bets, diversify away from China rather than having all this in China. It doesn't mean that they won't. Maybe they'll have a next gen vehicle line in China for the China market itself, right? Maybe make China its kind of own little ecosystem, but that's what I think is going to happen here. So, anyways, that stood out to me right away. Okay, so I love coming to this because I think this is the spot where you get a lot of good info. So, speaking of good info. So let's read this. In Q2, we produced a record number of vehicles thanks to ongoing ramps of our new factories, as well as strong performance of Shanghai and Fremont. We remain committed to smoothing deliveries throughout the quarter by reducing the percentage of vehicles delivered in the third month. Okay, so this is a big deal, right? Because this means that there's a lot of vehicles in transit if they're doing that, right? If they're lowering the percentage they're delivering in the third month. That means there's vehicles in transit, there's vehicles that are building up in inventory. And we can further confirm that on the next line. Vehicles in transit, test drive, and display vehicles account for a substantive majority of our total days of supply. Okay, well, how many days of supply do they have? Great question. Well, let's look at some numbers. So here we go. You can see it right here. They have 16 days of supply. All right, 16 days. This is 1 day up from last quarter, 2 days up from Q4, and 300% up from a year ago. So 16 days. Is that a big deal? Well, if you recall, we've talked a lot about these other OEMs, Ford, GM, Volkswagen, BYD, all of them having stockpiles of EVs, right? For most of these OEMs, it's 100 days plus of inventory buildup. And here Tesla has 16. And here Tesla has indicated that they're pushing off a lot of vehicles because they don't want to have these wave effects, right? They don't want to burn out their employees, and it's not sustainable in the long term. And on top of that, the majority of this 16-day buildup are showroom vehicles or vehicles that are already in transit. So a lot of that's kind of explained away, but it's still something to be cautious about for next quarter. But I think next quarter we will not see a buildup. All right. So before we go into that, let's just look at a couple other things that I like to take a look at. So this whole stream here is really going to be it's going to be about the entire AI narrative with Tesla right now. And here we can see more of it. Cumulative miles driven with FSD beta. Now, keep in mind, a lot of this right here, this like extreme uptick, isn't because more people have beta, but because highway driving was incorporated into version 11. I'm not trying to say these aren't good miles or they don't count. Obviously, they count, but it is worth thinking about. So, but still, I think the better beta gets, the faster this will go up, the more people use it for their everyday drives. Look, I just used Navigate on autopilot for the majority of our drive, and it wasn't out of just an experiment. Obviously, that was part of it, but it became just that much more convenient. My wife, when she took over, right, because I slept for a little bit, she took over. She didn't want to drive without it. So she was upset whenever we'd have like heavy rain and it would just be lane keeping because it was just didn't feel as safe. It really didn't feel as safe. All right, let's come down here. I know this isn't news to anyone, We've seen this. This is old news at this point, but still 100 exaflops. Look, I don't think people even understand how to conceptualize this. All right. But this is a compute measurement. All right. So this is everything you see with NVIDIA and how they're outselling, and just everybody's like, oh, NVIDIA AI is such a great thing. And it is a very good thing, but nobody has 100 exaflops. All right. I think this is probably the amount and this would be like buying every single GPU NVIDIA sells for like an entire year. I think that's what this would be, right? So this is just a massive number, and Tesla will have that with a combination of NVIDIA and Dojo in-house. Insane, absolutely insane. All right, let's see. What else did I find interesting here? Okay, wasn't that? Okay, artificial intelligence. 4 main technology pillars are needed to solve vehicle autonomy at scale: extremely large real-world data sets, neural net training, vehicle hardware, and vehicle software. We're developing each of these pillars in-house. This month, we are taking a step towards a faster, cheaper neural net training with the start of production of our Dojo training computer. Okay, so what the heck is an exaflop? Okay, great question, Amy. All right, so let me think of a good analogy. Okay, so imagine I'm trying to explain to you a car, a vehicle, right? And we say like my Model Y. My Model Y performance, it gives me about 300 miles of range per charge, right? That miles, 300 miles per charge, that's a way for us to quantify and measure how far the vehicle will go, right? Well, an exaflop is essentially the same type of thing, but for these chips that companies make that are meant for heavy, complicated compute processes. All right. So GPUs, which is what NVIDIA is known for, are used for heavy computational, complex, parallel computational tasks by computers, by servers. And we stumbled upon these being useful for training neural nets and LLMs, large language models, foundation models. We stumbled upon this, but they were initially made really for graphics, for video games, for things like AutoCAD and Revit. They just so happen to be so great for this as well. Now, with neural nets are not memory bandwidth constrained like you'll see with like something like ChatGPT, but instead they're more compute constrained. So what is an exaflop? Well, an exaflop is a measurement of how good those chips, those GPUs, graphic processing units that NVIDIA makes, and Dojo, that's what essentially what Dojo is, right? With those tiles, if you remember those tiles broken up, that is Tesla's in-house chip architecture. And FLOPS stands for, what is it? Floating, I don't remember what it stands for. It's floating operations points per seconds. Sorry, I don't remember these acronyms, but it's floating operations per second. That's what it is. Floating operations per second. So how many operations can you do on a per second basis, right? That's the unit of measurement for these, for compute, for chips, for graphic processing units, for CPUs, for anything. Anyways, an exaflop is so you might have heard teraflop, right? A teraflop is being able to do 1 trillion operations per second, floating operations per second. A exaflop is a quintillion, I think. Yeah, I think it's a quintillion operations per second. It might be 18 quintillions, or maybe it's 18 teraflops in a exaflop. I forget. The point is, it's really, really big, and it's really insane, and it's a unit of measurement for compute. All right, it's not something that I would say most people can quantify. It's like saying, oh, I have, you can almost quantify $1 million. You can almost quantify 10 million. When I say $1 billion to you, that you can't even see that in your head correctly, right? And so that's what these exaflops are, right? This is just a insane amount of compute. This is going to be so many of these Dojo tile chips all intertwined together to work together as one big supercomputer, right? Another way to think about this would be batteries, right? Imagine if you had a whole bunch of 12-volt batteries, right? And as I connect two, well, now I have 24. If I connect three, 36. Now I have 48, right? So that's essentially what they're doing. They're connecting all of these computers, all these servers to create 100 exaflops of compute power. And with that, and why is that important? All right. Like, so I hear a lot of people talking about this, but I don't think people understand why it's so important, why Tesla needs so much data or so much compute power. Well, the reason is the more data you give these neural nets, the better they're going to be, right? It it needs all this data so that it can find edge cases and find patterns and figure out how all of the weights within the neural nets should be affected and biased. And the more data you give it, right, the better it can learn. The problem right now is not that we're data constrained. Data is really not the problem for Tesla. It's a problem for everybody else, right? But for Tesla, that's not the bottleneck. The bottleneck for Tesla is the compute part right here. This is why we need all these exaflops. And the reason that they need this, is because they have so much data that they can't train fast enough. And so the more exaflops that they have, the more compute they have, then they can not only train faster, but train with bigger volume. And so at this point with autonomy is essentially a solved problem. It is the general consensus. All right. The but the bottleneck and the thing you have to get to is having enough training and time in order to get it solved. So this is what Tesla's after. At this point, it's no longer about having those logarithmic plateaus that Elon has famously spoken about. At this point, everybody's pretty much under the impression that it's solved from a conceptual perspective, right? It needs to be end to end. That's what version 12 is going to be. It's just about iterating and training, getting enough data in there until it's good enough to be better than human, right? We saw AlphaGo do the same kind of thing, and so that's where we're at right now. And that's why we need so much compute. And so this is a very big deal, and this isn't just for FSD. This is also for Optimus. Let's see. Here's my question: when FSD goes live, would the value of current Tesla vehicles 5x? Will Tesla continue selling cars to consumers? If another manufacturer like Ford licensed FSD, what about their value? I think you meant to put questions on this one, but these are great questions. Let's answer them. All right. So let's answer your first question. When FSD goes live, will the value of the current Tesla vehicles 5x? I would say no. I don't think the value of the Tesla itself, right, the hardware itself, will 5x. What I think will happen is that, well, okay, it could, depending on what Tesla ends up doing with FSD licensing. Here's my theory. My theory is that they keep subscriptions at $200 a pop. They won't change that. But if you only subscribe, then I don't think you'll be allowed to put your vehicle into the Tesla fleet, right? Like into their Uber version, right? In order to do that, you'll have had to buy it outright. And the outright cost of it is going to keep going up. So right now it's at 15,000. When version 12 comes out, it'll probably jump up to 20,000, maybe 25,000. As they get robotaxis out there and that starts to happen, it might be 100,000. So I think that itself will make it more and more expensive to get into the Tesla app, into the Tesla fleet, to have your robotaxi out there. Now, again, if you've purchased it, you're good to go. Now, I think they'll just keep the subscription at $200 a month for people who want to use it just for themselves. And then they'll probably offer a cheaper version on like a per mile basis, but that per mile basis won't be as cost effective as if you just did $200 a month. So that's kind of what I think will happen. And so if they do that and it gets to, $100,000 to buy FSD to put it into the Robotaxi network, well then, yeah, probably more than 5x if that's what you're looking at. But I think it'll be something like that. I think that'll be the structure. So will it 5x? I don't know in that sense, but you should be able to 5x in profit and revenue. That's for sure. Will Tesla continue selling cars to consumers? Yes, they will definitely continue to sell cars for the foreseeable future. It's going to take a long time for Tesla to have enough robotaxis out there, enough Teslas out there to drop the price on a per mile basis to be cheaper than owning a car. Even then, I think that people who are, upper middle class, higher, are going to want to have their own vehicles, just the same way people want to have their own house and people want to, buy their own thing and have their own space, right? I think that'll persist. If another manufacturer like Ford licensed FSD, what about their value? I think they will have to do this to survive. The way I see it, future automakers are going to be about design. That's what they're going to be about. Maybe you don't like the look of a Tesla. Hey, that's fine, right? Even in design, we have modern design, we have contemporary design, we have traditional design, we have Art Deco, we have mid-century, we've got rustic, we got farmhouse, right? There's all kinds of design for people use for houses. And so I think that's what these other auto manufacturers will become, just design shops, right? So, if you want certain luxurious over the top, things in your car, you can have that. But underlying all of that will be FSD from Tesla, and it'll be licensed from Tesla. And Tesla will benefit from all those costs. So I think the whole concept of what a Ford or a GM or a Volkswagen is will completely shift, right? They're not going to be an auto manufacturer the way we think of them today. They'll be more the likes of a Louis Vuitton or Michael Kors kind of thing, right? It's weird to think about, but if they're not being known for their engines or their EVs or their software, well, then what are they being known for? And it's going to be that design factor. So that's kind of what I think. I think autonomy will change everything, and I think it's a winner takes most market. So that's how I see it. But we'll see. This will make life interesting, investing interesting. We'll see what happens here. Is or Tesla Dojo going to into quantum computing and achieve quantum supremacy by? No. So Dojo is actually a useless supercomputer. It's a useless cluster of servers outside of training neural nets. This is why the whole idea of doing like a as a service really doesn't make sense for Dojo right now, because it's completely built for one serial operation, and that's for neural net video neural net training for their FSD beta solution. So in the long run, I think that like version 2 of Dojo will focus, I think, on being less specialized as this current iteration of Dojo is. And it'll take more of a NVIDIA GPU approach where, hey, maybe we can do more things, right? Maybe we can focus on working on memory constraint FM foundation models versus just these serial video type modeling. But that's what they're working on right now, because that's what they need to solve for. So everything is built for that specifically. Hang on a sec. I need to get my hammer. All right, let's see. Sell everything in your portfolio and go all in on Tesla. Tesla will rocket to the moon up. Is that robot arm? That's cool. Not financial advice, but what I would say is this isn't bad advice. Will Tesla sell FSD kits to third parties, aftermarket service? I want one just for fun. I think they'll do something similar to this, because so here's the thing: like the cameras, they can buy that from anyone, but they're not gonna be able to buy the actual PCB boards that have the Tesla custom silicon on it, and their inference chips is what they are. So that'll be interesting. All right, let me get back to this because I kind of went off tangent. Amy, this is your fault. You took me off a tangent here, but it was a great question. So let's take a look at a couple other things that I wanted to look at. Okay, so this is interesting. Service and other business. This is where you're going to see the Supercharging Network come into play. And I know everybody keeps thinking that this is a crazy amount of money that they're going to make off of this, and other people are thinking, oh, this is a big mistake. Tesla just lost their moat. I think both camps are sorely wrong on this, and I'll explain, and feel free to disagree. All right. Oh, and by the way, because I always forget to say this stuff, like, subscribe, do all that stuff that YouTubers are supposed to say that I always forget about. I know I'm the worst at doing this stuff. Anyways, so all right, so here we can see this. Look at this. Service and other gross margins. We can see that's increasing. And this is increasing before we actually start to see all these other OEMs start using Tesla's supercharging network. Now, again, I went from Florida to Boston, or Florida to Manhattan, Manhattan to Boston, Boston back to Florida. Not once did I ever wait to use the supercharging station. Not once. Not once was I like, oh, there's only one left. Good thing we got here and we took it. Never happened once. Every time there were multiple superchargers that were left empty. On top of that, you always have to remember that the majority of your charging, unless you live like in an apartment building that has no space or superchargers or anything like that. Okay, granted, that's an example. But I even think apartment buildings are now going to have superchargers in them and stuff. Like, I think that problem will go away fast. But most of your charging is done at home, right? You plug in, you leave. Like, unless I'm on a road trip, I never use superchargers ever. So, but anyway, so these superchargers were never full. And so if they're never full, anytime they're empty, it's almost like a restaurant or a bar, right? If a restaurant or bar doesn't have every seat filled up and taken, well, there's opportunity there, right? There's opportunity to, butts and seats. You want that, right? You want butts and seats, and you want to get them out quickly, and you want to have that turnover. Well, every time there's an empty table or empty seat at the bar, that's potential revenue that you're losing. So I think by Tesla opening this up to everybody else, and everybody else going to the superchargers to charge up and essentially pay a Tesla, this is going to be a very good boost for two things. One, obviously for the margins, the profitability of the supercharging network, but also it'll allow them to accelerate the expansion of the supercharging network. Right? It's going to be almost impossible for anyone else to get into this and move as fast when Tesla is just going to be like this snowball that's gaining steam, growing bigger and bigger, because again, it's self-funding at that point. So it's kind of a crazy thing to think about. And this moat that apparently Tesla is going to be losing, I'm telling you, it's going to get so much bigger because nobody else is going to be able to deploy as fast as them and grow as fast as them as profitably as them. And even if they do, right? Electrify America is going to use Tesla's charging port, the NAC standard. Guys, it's not the hardware that really matters here. Like, that's just a convenience thing. That's just let's stop being stupid and using a big, clunky, old piece of garbage plastic rather than using something that's slim, refined, and works better, right? From a hardware perspective. That's all it is. But the thing that people are missing is the software that's really makes everything such a great experience. And this is where they all suck at. They all suck at the software part of it. And that's the part that you need to be good at. So this is just, this is happening before we really start to see the benefits of the supercharging network. So watch out for this. All right. Let's go to some of these pictures. So this was interesting. Hopefully you guys can see this. All right. So I know I'm just crazy zooming in here. So we see the windshield wiper here on the Cybertruck, but then we come over here. I'm not sure what this thing is, but it comes all the way down to the side here. I almost wonder if this is like some type of, actually, I don't know what it would be. I really don't know what this is, but it comes down in here. Oh, maybe it's like a snorkel or some sort or something. Maybe that's something so I can go through water. I don't know, but that's interesting. I don't know what that is, but that was something I noticed. What else did I notice? Oh, Farzad called this out. This was interesting. Notice you can see where the windshield wiper comes down. It doesn't clear all of this. So that's interesting. That made me wonder if that other one was a windshield wiper as well, and it would get both sides. So interesting to think about that. I almost think that large windshield wiper might not be the final look of it. Let's see. Zooming in again. Look at this. So here they're covering the Cybertruck because there's clearly something they still don't want us to see, something that we don't know. But there's been a lot of speculation. I don't know if it was during the call or if it was afterwards when we were talking, but there was speculation about what's going on here. Are these two Cybertruck lines? Because it kind of looks like it, right? But there are some things that are missing, right? We don't see any of the overhead gear, right? Don't see any of that over on this side. So that's one thing. Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. It'd be interesting. I mean, you can see that they have all the wire racks up here. You know, I keep trying to zoom in and look closer, but I don't see any. There's no telltale signs. But this very could. I mean, all these rails, all the cranes here, the track system, that could be installed afterwards. But I would imagine you'd want to do that first before you get all the ground stuff in. I don't know, but that was interesting. That's for sure. We've seen this one plenty, and this is just a great picture. Okay, I want to go into some of the more exciting things that I think happened. So let me come over here. All right. So shout out to Motley Fool. I've used them forever. I'm not sponsored or anything like that. I don't really do sponsorships here. I just so don't think I do. But Motley Fool has always been pretty good about getting the call transcripts out. And so we're gonna do that this time instead of listening to the call. I'm just trying to switch it up a little bit. And the reason I want to switch it up is because I want to be able to like see the words that were said and not get caught up on did he actually say that or the million and crap like that. So I hope you're about to get as excited as I am because there's some things here that I don't think enough people have gotten excited about, and I think people should be. So let's start with this. This is how Elon essentially opened up the call. Let me make sure. Yeah, make sure I'm at the top. In the long term, autonomy, we think, is going to just drive volume through the ceiling next level. And our sort of future robotaxi products, dedicated robotaxi products, we think have like quasi infinite demand. So the way we're going to manufacture the robotaxi is also itself a revolution. So it's a revolutionary design made in a revolutionary way. It'll be by far the highest unit per hour of any vehicle production ever. I know what you guys might be thinking. Nick, we know about this. We've heard about this a million times. I would argue, no, you haven't. You have not heard this a million times. All right. Elon is talking about the next gen vehicle here. And instead of even talking about the next gen vehicle, he's only talking about robotaxis. To me, this was signal. All right. This was signal. Signal is a very good thing. Signal means it shows us what he's thinking about and what's going on. I personally think that we are going to have a big surprise on our hands. I'm not one to start rumors or anything like that or conspiracy theories, but after seeing some of the stuff that's been talked about for version 12 not being beta, followed up by a Shuck's presentation at that CTV, whatever it was, conference, which I watched like 7 times to truly understand what I was listening to. And shout out to Dr. Know-It-All, the other Gibbs. No, we're not related, by the way. But John did a great breakdown of it for a couple of things that I wasn't sure I quite understood. So John's very good at explaining things. So I was happy he did that to confirm some of the things I was understanding, and then also clarify things that I wasn't understanding. But after watching that and now reading this, and Elon never talks about the next gen vehicle, he's only talking about robotaxis. I think something's happening. I think we are getting there. I think they're close to revealing not only whatever the next gen vehicle will be, because I do think there will be a next gen vehicle that has pedals and steering wheels, but I think that they are actively working on the robotaxi, and I think that will be unveiled soon as well. So, and really, I think this next gen vehicle is built for the robotaxi, and adding pedals and steering wheel for countries that don't have FSD yet is just a chess move. But the intention is for all of it to be a robotaxi once everywhere has FSD. So let me continue on what I'm saying here, because I might sound crazy right now, but I'm telling you, analysts agree. But we'll get to that in a second. All right, Autopilot and Dojo. In order to build autonomy, we obviously need to train our neural nets with data from millions of vehicles. millions of vehicles. They have what, about 4 million vehicles out there. I think they'll have like 5 million soon. So they need millions and millions more vehicles. The more, this has been proven over and over. The more training data you have, the better the results. And I mean, there are times where we see basically in a neural net, basically, it's sort of a million training examples. That was complicated to say. Elon's not the most succinct speaker. It barely works at 2 million. It's slightly worse at 3 million. It's like, wow, okay, we're seeing something. But then you get to like 10 million training examples. It's like it becomes incredible. There's just no substitute for massive amounts of data. And obviously, Tesla has more vehicles on the road collecting this data than all the other companies combined. I think maybe even an order of magnitude or 10x. Okay, we might have 90% of all or a very big number. So, the success in AI endeavors is a function of talent, sort of unique data and computing resources. And we have outstanding capabilities in all three arenas. Just don't know how anyone could do what we're doing, even if they had our software and had our computer, if they did not have the trained data. So this, again, this can't be emphasized enough. And I get it because we don't have autonomy completed yet. It's hard for people to truly believe that this is going to happen or that it's as important as Elon makes it out to be. But it is. It really is. It's like saying, hey, I have the recipe for this cake. I have all the utensils, the stove, and everything to make this amazing cake. It's going to be the best cake in the world. It's going to sell for the most money ever. But I don't have the ingredients. And without the ingredients, even if I know how to put it together, even if I know how to build it, even if I have all the tools, without the ingredients, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. And that's what's happening here, right? Tesla's essentially saying, hey, you can have all the tools, right? You can have the engineers, the servers, the computers, you can have all of it, right? So count that as all the equipment. You can have the know-how, how to assemble that cake perfectly, the most perfect possible way to make it sell the most. Tesla, you can have our software. You can have it. You can know exactly how to structure all of this so that it builds it out perfectly and it'll never have an issue. But without the ingredients, without the data, you can't do it. There's no way to do it. And the big problem is, how are you going to get that data, right? This is arguably the best moat Tesla has out of everything right now, is the data. Because in order to catch up or to have the same amount of data, you need to start by creating the supercomputer chip and the inference chips that Tesla has in every car. You need to put all the cameras on every car, and you start shipping those out, millions and millions of those, gain that data back, and then once you have that data, clean the data, label the data, and then now you have your ingredients. Now you can go and do everything else. And that's assuming that you went ahead and got all the compute, you got all the talent, you somehow know how to make this cake. Like this is, I get it, we're not there yet. So it's hard to get extremely excited about it. Well, obviously not for me, but this is the thing that a lot of people aren't understanding, but are starting to. They're starting to, and we're going to see that here in a second. All right. Let's see. We expect to use NVIDIA and Dojo, to be clear. Okay. And we think we may reach in-house neural net training capabilities of 100 exaflops by the end of the next year. We talked about that. All right. Let's scroll down here. It will soon be billions of miles and tens of billions of miles, and FSD will go from being as good as a human to then being vastly better than a human. We see a clear path for full self-driving being 10 times safer than the average human driver. Between autopilot, Dojo computer, our inference hardware in the car, which we call sort of hardware 3 and 4, but it's really dedicated. Okay. It's high efficiency inference. Okay, we saw that. So this is a really big deal. Let me let me look here in the comments a little bit. Elon keeps dropping bombs, especially when he announced OEMs are now lined up for FSD, just like they did. Okay, yeah, I'm going to talk about that in just a second here. So give me a second. I'm definitely going to cover that. All right, let's continue here. We continue to build release candidates of the Cybertruck on our final production line in Austin. I'm actually here in Austin at the Gigafactory. The Cybertruck's gonna be a big deal. I'm convinced that it's going to get first deliveries Q4. I know we've talked about Q3, but his terminology's changed to this year instead of Q3. So just say Q4. Who cares? It's gonna happen this year. We know that. But I don't think the Cybertruck's honestly the delay. I think so. So this was something else. I guess I'm getting ahead of myself here. But so they talked about shutting down some production this quarter to do some retooling. Those are quotes here. Retooling. Obviously, that's got something to do with this Project Highland, potentially Project was it Juniper for the Model Y. Obviously, it's got something to do with that. So my guess is that they want to do the turnover for the Cybertruck and show the new Model 3, maybe the new Model Y, I don't know, all at the same time. I think that'll be one event. I think that'll be in Q4. And who knows, maybe they'll also do AI Day there. I don't know. It's the reason I think AI Day might be in November. And I think you'll see why I think that. But it seems like that it makes sense to do all those together. Maybe not AI Day, but Cybertruck, Highland, Juniper projects, release, refresh, those make sense to do all together. And I think that might be what the delay is about. And that'll be a very exciting time to go into the end of the year, which I think we're gonna. I don't know how we don't get to like 300, 350 before the end of the year. It might happen next week. Who knows? Okay, let's see. Okay, so I got excited about this. The first truck that we're aware of that will have 4 doors, over 6-foot bed, and fit in a 20-foot garage. Biggish on the outside, but it's even bigger on the inside. So one of the elements of good design is it should feel bigger on the inside than it looks on the outside. So my wife, she designs like hotels and museums, and like she's just this amazing designer. I can't speak highly. It's why our house looks as beautiful as it does. But this good design, timeless design, beautiful architecture, it's everything to her. And we were driving back down south and from Boston, and I was re-listening to this earnings call. And yeah, that's what we do. But I subject my wife to that. No, she enjoys it. But she heard this line from Elon saying that where was it? Biggest on the outside, but it's even bigger on the inside. Those are elements of good design. She immediately was like, yes, that's exactly what this is. Speaking about the Model Y. So to see that like raw organic reaction from her was really interesting on that point. So hey, Elon, she agrees with you. Franz, you might want to hire her. Anyways, but this was really exciting to me because I have a Cybertruck on reservation. My garage is 20 feet, and it was very important to me to have it fit in there. And the only time I think we've actually heard Elon say that should fit in the garage was during the Jay Leno ride along where they went through the boring tunnel. There might be others, but that's the only one that I'm aware of. So I was excited to hear that is what they've designed for. And in the slide deck, I believe they talk about it being less than 19 feet. So I'm extremely happy about that. All right. We talked about supercharging. I don't really want to talk about that anymore. I highlighted it, but all right, here we go. Just as with the North American charging standard, although we're not licensed in this case, we're just making it available. But we are very open to licensing our full self-driving software and hardware to other car companies. And we are already in early discussions with a major OEM about using the Tesla FSD. So we're not trying to keep this to ourselves. We're more than happy to license it to others. Okay, so this was the moment, right? This is the moment I would have thought Wall Street would have in the post market, Tesla would have soared. Didn't. Somehow we sold off in the next day. Now, who knows why? Maybe people were just taking gains. There's the run up. Maybe it's the NASDAQ rebalancing, getting ready for that. I don't know. But this was a huge news to me because it was said up here in one of the comments right here. FSD, just like they did with adopting NACS for superchargers, talking about the OEMs lining up. So I 100% agree with this. We saw those dominoes just fall left and right after they announced this and when they announced NACS. And now here we are. This is getting announced. Who is it? Who knows? There's also a chance that there is no one, right? Who knows? Maybe this is just Elon playing a little chess game, right? Saying, yeah, there's a OEM that I'm not going to tell you who it is. And yeah, they're interesting. We're having early talks to see who comes to the table. That's possible. Don't think that's the case, but it's definitely possible. And I think it's probably Ford or BYD. Yeah, it's not going to be GM. GM's kind of screwed in this sense because they have such a big investment into Cruise, and they're all in with Cruise. It sucks for them because this will be their blind spot. This will 100% be their blind spot. All right, so I think Zach had a lot of important comments in here too that it doesn't seem like a lot of people focused on. So let's look at some of these. He said, first, the single most important priority is to ensure we are continuing to invest heavily in the core technologies that will drive the long-term value of the business. This includes increasing spending on AI-related technologies such as full self-driving, Optimus, and Dojo. That is an extremely profound sentence, 2 sentences. And it got looked over like crazy. Guys, who is Zach? Why is he important to the company? Well, because he handles the purse strings. All right. He's the one that gets the company to do smart, wise things with their capital. And what he is saying is that the most important thing that they do is to make sure that they continue to invest into these efforts, into FSD, into Optimus, into Dojo. All right. He's the sober one. He's the one that you can rely on not focused on being ultra, drunk on hopium. And he's saying this. As new products such as Cybertruck, our next generation platform in the semi and as evidenced by continued growth in our R&D spend. They're spending a lot in R&D. Think about it this way. What other company do you actually see spending so much money in R&D that you can actually see and use today, right? And I'm obviously talking about FSD. I mean, I guess you have Meta or Facebook who spends crazy billions and billions of dollars on the metaverse. Well, metaverse, in my opinion, is come and gone, right? That was metaverse ended before it started. I remember talking to someone about that. Anyways, also continue our investments in capacity expansion, not only in our vehicle factories, but also our supercharging network service, internal applications, and battery processes as we continue with manufacturing capital expenditures to lay the foundation for the future. Second, we continue to work towards our goals of maximizing volumes on both our vehicles and energy business. But most importantly, doing so in a way that generates the capital to continue our pace of R&D and capital investments. Again, he's sitting there, he's hitting the table, saying we will continue to invest in all these things. We're going to continue to focus on driving the cost down per vehicle, driving the cost down on batteries. Look, they once again dropped their COGS cost of goods sold. They dropped it yet again. They're being even more efficient. Just think about it. Right now, we're at a prime rate of 8% on interest rates, right? Rates are stupid high. Auto loans are getting defaulted left and right. Getting a car is extremely expensive right now. Yet Tesla's still setting records, setting revenue records, while dropping the cost of the car sold, right? Dropping them down to like 40-something, 30-something $1,000. And on top of that, they are continuing to drop the COGS of it, the cost of goods sold. This is mind-bending, right? This is just insane. And Wall Street is just taking this for granted. They don't see it. They don't understand it. This is why they keep being wrong on all of this. This is why they don't get it. Look, it's like this 18.2% on the margins. Everybody's like, oh, Tesla's right. Every article, oh, Tesla stock drops. So they beat on top and bottom line, but revenue or margins continue to decline. Okay. And they're still just a car company, right? They're just a car company. Name me another car company with 18%. Tell me another car company with 10%. That's right. It can't, right? Okay. Maybe you can for ones that are selling like a couple hundred vehicles a year. A high-end Rolls Royce, a Lamborghini. You're not seeing a Ford, a Volkswagen, Toyota, any of them doing to those numbers. That's for sure. Strong focus on per unit COGS reduction, right? This is what they're focused on. All right. We've realized per unit cost improvements in nearly every category, including material costs and commodities, manufacturing costs and logistics, while also continuing to rapidly increase the build rate in our Austin and Berlin factories. That's really important. This is the same example I gave back to the Supercharging Network, right? The more vehicles are charging at the networks, the higher value, the higher return they're getting on those superchargers. The more vehicles they build at the factory, right, the more valuable those factories are, the more revenue they make, the lower the cost of that factory becomes because it gets broken up on a per vehicle basis. So again, here he says, I want to reiterate Elon's comments on Q3 volumes driven by planned downtimes for factory upgrades. These upgrades will also carry some amount of factory idle costs. However, we are working to minimize as much as possible. I don't think this can be as big of a deal as a lot of people think it is. I think the shutdown will be quick, fast, decisive, and I think they've made a very big point not to have the same mistakes that they had during the Plaid and Model X shutdowns. All right. Let's go down here to Martin Vieca. All right, so all the state questions came in. The top question was about licensing FSD beta from us, from the retail, from the nobodies, the ones who don't know how to invest, the ones who apparently have been wrong about Tesla all these years and should have been listening to the Gordon Johnsons of the world. I'm joking, obviously. So here, Martin goes ahead and says, the first question on licensing we've already answered. So let's go through the second one. Why was that so important? Well, it was important because Elon went ahead and answered this during his opening comments about already being in discussions with a large OEM manufacturer. This is a pretty big deal because last we heard during the supercharging announcements with Mary, with Jim Farley, Elon was saying, hey, we're also open to doing other things. Now, it sure seems like it might be Ford because during that announcement, Farley was kind of hemming and hawing about why software is so hard for them, etc. They're struggling just to deal with the software for the car, right? The aggregation, homogenization of firmware from all the different components and taking all of that and creating a UI and a car system. Imagine then having to go ahead and have resources and try to figure out how to do autonomy. Like, good luck. It's almost impossible. So it seems like it might be Ford on that case. All right, I want to scroll down here. So we're excited to announce that in Q3 we will be allowing transfer of FSD. This is a one-time amnesty, so it needs to be. You need to take advantage of it in Q3. At least place your order in Q3 within a reasonable delivery time frame. So yeah, hope this makes you happy, but I mean, this is a one-time thing, okay? So this, I've seen, what have we seen? I think Jeff put in an order. I think Ava's son put in an order. I think John Gibbs is thinking about putting in an order. Lots of people are putting in orders. Lots of people are going to go ahead and upgrade their Tesla and transfer over FSD. This is a big deal. This is easy demand for Tesla. And I think more importantly, as FSD gets solved, they don't have to worry about the Gen 2 vehicles that don't have hardware 3 level computers or cameras or anything like that. So I think this was a smart move, one-time move. So if this is the first time you're hearing about it, get on it. Go make that transfer and buy your vehicle. Okay, The first Optimus that will have all of Tesla designed actuators, sort of production candidate actuators, integrated and working should be around November-ish. So then we'll start ramping up after that. So this, I think, was a big deal because this is why I think that there's a chance AI Day will be in November. I think it'll be in November because why would you want to show us or have the next AI Day before you have started building all of your own actuators and building Optimus with all of your own actuators before you would want to wait for that before you do AI Day. So it's interesting that they're waiting for that. Once they do that, they'll start ramping up. Right now, they have about 6 to 10 Optimus bots out there. And yeah, they're going to have to scale this up. But I thought that was very intriguing. I think that kind of gives us a little signal about when we might see AI Day. There's definitely going to be an AI Day for sure. It's just a matter of when. So I kind of hope, I would rather them wait and see that than not. All right. So here's another big deal. He said, I see a path to a 10, this is the stock price, to a 10x. I mean, but I call it a 5x increase in the value of the company, maybe a 10x. Where things go along the way, the trials, tribulations, and the mood of the markets, one cannot predict. And so, I mean, the old adage, buy and hold. So it's funny because he also goes on to say, let's see. Oh, here we go. Yeah, it's right here. Short-term variances in gross margin profitability really are minor relative to a long-term picture. Autonomy will make all these numbers look silly. I'd recommend looking at ARK Invest. So this is interesting. So we just had Elon up here saying that he could see the company 10xing. And then he's like, all right, I don't want to get in trouble with the SEC or anything like that. Let's say 5x. We'll 5x. Next thing you know, what's he say? I recommend looking at ARK Invest. Let's look at ARK Invest. Hey, look, we happen to have it right here. ARK, expected value for Tesla in 2027, $2,000 per share. What year are we in? 2023. About halfway through. So in 3.5 years, maybe call it just 4 years. All right, well, let's see what they say. ARK's 2027 price estimate per share. Expected value, 2,000. Bear value, 1,400. Bull value, 2,500. So this is interesting, isn't it? 2,000, that's essentially what, a 10x, a 9x from here. We're at 260, right? So yeah, so 10x would be 2,600, right? Let's pretend my math is good there. So that would be the bull case. About a 9x, I guess, would be 2,000, and bear case would be 1,400. Oh, that's what, like a 7x, 6x, something like that. So I don't know. Is this a sign? Is this something we should be paying attention to? Maybe ARK knows something here. I don't know if you guys listened to Herbert's Herbert's interview with Tasha Kinney, who's essentially the one heading the entire Robotaxi part of ARK Invest, I guess the analyst. I don't know what her title is. But Tasha's been following this for a long time. And she estimates that we'll have robotaxis from Tesla midway through 2024. On that call or on that interview with Herbert, again, check out his channel, Brighter with Herbert. He's doing just some fantastic interviews as of late. Well, he always has, but it's just, you can tell he's leveled up recently from the content, his own questions, and then his guests. All of it has leveled up. Love going on there and having talks with Herbert. Anyways, let me move on from my love affair here with Herbert. She was on there saying that she still thinks midway through 2024 it'll happen, and she's very confident in these price targets here. And she had a good mental model that I think we should all kind of adopt. Forget about when it happens. Her point of view was, all right, do you think it's going to happen in the next 5 years? And I would recommend, before you even answer that, if you haven't been in a beta, if you haven't used Navigate on Autopilot, preferably if you haven't tried FSD beta, find somebody who has it. Go test it. Test it for at minimum 3 hours. Test at night, test in the morning, test it during rush hour. Try unprotected left-hand turns. Try navigating the median. Try going for long rides. Try heavy traffic. Try light traffic. Try having lots of humans around. Go explore with it. Minimum 2 to 3 hours of all those different type of scenarios, right? You could probably do all that in one day. Try it out. Then come back and tell me, do you think it's going to happen in the next 5 years? If so, her mental model is that you're insane not to be in the company. You're insane not to be in the stock. So whether it happens in 2024, 2025, 2026, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that it's going to happen. And the question becomes, who's going to do it first? Who's going to do it at scale? Who's going to be able to actually generate profitability on it? That's what matters. And that's what you want to focus on. So that's the mental model. And so again, you listen to Elon. He talks about, I mean, let's see what he says. Let me see if I can find it here. And again, look, listen here, Zach. I fully agree with you. I mean, I think the only thing in the short term that matters is what I said in my opening remarks, which is, we are generating enough money to continue to invest in, the portfolio of products, technology. And what do they continue to invest in? This AI, FSD, Dojo, right? That's their focus on. Again, here they're spending $1 billion this next year on Dojo. I'm trying to find what I was looking for. He's talking about other AI companies here, saying if they're so great, why can't they make self-driving cars? Because it's hard. That's why. Let's see. Trying to find. There's something I kind of already forgot what I was gonna say. Telling you, I thought I had it. Tesla's fleet value increased to the point of which we can upload full self-driving, and it's approved by regulators, will be the single biggest step change in asset value maybe in history. The single biggest step change in asset value maybe in history. This is the market for this is insane when you start to think about it. All right, let me see if I can let's get a little calculator up here. We'll do a little math. Let's see, calculator. Pretend like I can spell. Let's say, let me zoom in here. Let's say that Tesla does, I don't know, 10 million robotaxis at first. So let's say that they did 10 million robotaxis at first. And I'm going to end up killing myself here with numbers here. Let me clear this. All right, let's say, oh my goodness. Let's say they do 10 million robotaxis. I know I should be dropping zeros here, but I'm not. And they sell it, they license that out for, I don't know, $200 a month. All right. That's million, or that's thousand. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's $2 billion, if I'm not mistaken, in revenue in 1 month. Times that by 12. That's 24 billion, if I did my math right. That's 24 billion with just 10 million robotaxis. I hope my math's right here. The point I'm trying to make is that these numbers are crazy. And you have to remember, like, with that, in reality, that 10 million would probably be other people's vehicles. It wouldn't be the robotaxis. That'd be other people's vehicles. And then they would make their own fleet of vehicles. And you're not, for Tesla themselves, they're not charging themselves for the FSD there, right? But they're going to be charging on a per mile basis. So not only do you get the software license from individuals like me, but then on top of that, you get you get what, 50% of every mile driven or paid for. They get that back. So just alone, the money, the numbers for FSD beta, just the licensing of it becomes just mind blowing. And then you start thinking about the shared revenue model that they get on that. I'm telling you, like you quickly get to somewhere like anywhere from 100 to $1 trillion in revenue. And when you start to realize that with those numbers, ha call it 70% of it. Say 70% of that is pure profit. Let's say 30% is for, I don't know where that 30% would even go for costs. I mean, there's only so much cost you have for maintenance and upkeep and improvements and engineers and servers, right? There's only so much. It's not gonna be 30% of a trillion. No way. But let's say it is, right? Like that, it boggles the mind when you start thinking about these numbers. It's Elon says it and people kind of dismiss him, but what I would say is look at ARK Invest, all right? Look at what they're saying. Look at Chamath. Chamath put a brilliant article out, or piece on Twitter talking about Tesla and the investment of it. And Chamath was essentially saying that he thinks that right now Tesla is in the midst of their iPhone moment, right? Like this is coming from one of the best investors of all time. And yes, he is one of the best investors of all time. Take a look at like last 15, 20 years, his track record against Buffett, it's pretty damn good. Okay, so I'm telling you to listen to Art. I'm telling you to listen to Chamath. I'm telling you to listen to Ron Barron. All right, Ron Barron thinks Tesla's $1,500 stock just in the EV business, just in the EV business by 2030. Not with FSD, not with energy, not with Optimus, not with insurance, none of that. Just selling electric vehicles. He sees a $1,500 company. The numbers here are just absolutely astounding. And so, why was this such a profound call for me? Right? Because we can keep looking at the earnings call and all that, and I can keep pulling out things left and right to show you like interesting things that Elon said or that Zach said. But I think the most important point, and really why I want to hop on today, despite the fact that we're still unpacking everything from our long ride, was that look, I just got back from Boston. Without FSD beta, we use Navigate Autopilot. My wife and I use it for essentially 2,000, a trip that was 2,400 miles. Navigate on Autopilot did 96% of all the miles. All right, we did the math. It wasn't that hard. Pretty straightforward. Did 96% of all of it. That's Navigate on Autopilot. That's not even FSD beta. So, if you're me, you just get done doing that. You go onto earnings call, great and everything. But the thing you notice more than anything, not so much Elon talking about robotaxis and not the next gen vehicle. No, that's not what I noticed. It wasn't the fact that Zach is talking about spending $1 billion on Dojo alone and that their main efforts right now is to ensure that they're putting enough capital into investments. No, that wasn't it. The thing that stood out to me the most after doing this trip, essentially all on the Navigate on Autopilot, not even FSD beta, was the fact that every single analyst that spoke asked a question about autonomy, about FSD beta, about Dojo, about Optimus. That's what they want to talk about. So if Tesla's just a car company, if they're not an AI company, why were they asking all these questions? To me, we're in a turning point, and I think this call was a very important call. It was the first time it seemed like analysts were starting to picture Tesla not as an auto company, but as an AI company, as potentially the most consequential AI company in the world. And I think they are. So, what does that mean? Well, traditionally, 2 weeks after Tesla earnings call, it's volatile for the stock. Always has been, probably always will be, until they view Tesla like they view Apple, just this stable company. Despite the fact that they beat on top and bottom lines, despite the fact that margins probably troughed and they were better than expected. A lot of people expected worse margins. Despite the fact that Tesla's margins are more than double what just about any other auto OEM has for their margins. Despite the fact that Tesla has very low inventory compared to everybody else, despite the fact that the Cybertruck's coming out, despite the fact of all this good news, Tesla stock still went down. Now, 260, hey, who cares? We were 260 what? A week before that? Not a big deal. But what else is a trend for Tesla, despite or aside from the fact that we tend to be volatile over the next 2 weeks after earnings, is that after those 2 weeks, Tesla tends to run. And so my hunch would be that Tesla's going to run again. And not only is Tesla going to run, but you're going to start seeing more and more of a narrative around Tesla as an AI company. I think we're going to start seeing this more from analysts. I think analysts are going to start to have to bake this into their numbers or their thought process or their articles or their pieces. I think you're going to start seeing more of this. I think the tide is changing. I think Elon's no longer the big bad guy enemy everybody wanted him to be, right? They've moved on to a new villain. Maybe it's because politics is ramping back up again, and now you have, Republicans and Democrats just fighting each other. Whatever, I'll take it. I'd rather them take their focus off Elon and keep positivity towards Tesla and FSD Beta. After all, FSD Beta is a very big deal. FSD Beta is going to save lives. And the beauty of Elon and the spirit of humanity, we're not going to keep that for ourselves. We're going to license that out to other OEMs. And I think that is going to be a big narrative that we start seeing analysts talk about, because they haven't been. The only analyst you've seen talk about licensing FSD Beta to other OEMs has been who? ARK Invest, who, once again, were spot on. They said this would happen. It did happen. They keep being right somehow. Somehow they keep saying these things happen, and then they happen. So when we see their stock price for 2027 at 2,000, potentially 2,500, don't be surprised if it happens. I say this all the time on my channel. Be paranoid about what other people say. But if you're going to trust somebody, and if you're going to dig into what people are saying, focus on the people who continue to be right. And I'll tell you who continues to be right. Elon continues to be right. ARK continues to be right. Ron Barron continues to be right. Gary Black continues to be right. James Stevenson continues to be right. All Tesla YouTubers continue to be right. That's where I would focus on. Now, I'm not saying they're right about everything. I'm not saying they've never got anything wrong. But those are the people that I would listen to. And that's what I would focus on. So let me go through some of these comments. I'm very exhausted right now, if you guys can't tell. But I'm very, very bullish. I mean, I got done with that call and I saw Tesla stock sell off, and I didn't care. It just seemed so obvious to me what happened. I was like, this is not a big deal. The fact that Tesla has, or Elon said that they're in talks to license it out, I think it's such a big deal. I think we're going to see more and more of that. I think that story hasn't been written yet by analysts, and someone's going to pick it up, and it's going to be the type of thing that, Tesla starts to pop off. Something like that's going to happen. I think we will see 300 to 350 by the end of the year. Like if not way higher, right? I pre-plan my purchases of Tesla stock ahead of time. So I know how much cash flow I get in on a per month basis. And so I plan out what I'm going to buy and what I'm going to buy. And I've projected out what I think that stock price might be, so I can just get an idea of how many shares I'll have. And for the end of the year, I have it, projected out to $400 a share. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. Not financial advice, but just give you an idea. Like I do think we could easily run up there. Let's see. My view is FSD in 1 year. FSD beta user. Oh, nice. Snow White Tesla. That's a great name. That's a great name. My favorite. I'm honestly not a big fan of white cars in general, even though we used to have one. But the Tesla Roadster in white, oh my goodness, it makes me drool. I love that car. And I know people think red's the way to go. I think white. Actually, no, you guys get red. Leave me alone with the white Tesla Roadster. I think that's going to be the sexiest car in the world. Let's see. FSD is infinitely better than it was a year ago. Oh, I agree with this. FSD beta is miles, just like light years better than what it was a year ago. And that's the problem. So I don't have FSD beta yet, but what I what I don't want to be as I start getting it, once it comes to hardware for people, I don't want to become that person who is like, I don't want to say complaining. You know how, like, if you're like working out in the gym and you're looking at yourself every day, like you don't see the changes, but other people do. Well, when I would test FSD beta, I would test it like every other release that came out. I would go test it, but because I wasn't driving it every day, in between testing it, I feel like I could tell the changes more. The changes were more apparent to me, whereas the people who drive it every day, I feel like it's not always as apparent to them. I could be wrong there, but I think people forget where we were, and I don't want to become that person. I want to remember where we were, the trials and tribulations that we had. But I think FSD beta is getting very boring, which is very good. All right. Germany must be a very complex situation for FSD. Been a long time ago, but I drove there, and it's easy to get lost going the wrong way, or on a path that isn't meant for cars. Hmm. That's interesting. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Europe. Right now, it's regulations that's holding it back. Hopefully, that changes here soon, sooner than later. All right. This is a great question. Where are they? I don't know. Nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found. Let's see. I'm now against licensing. The other car makers are too pathetic. Hey, no, let them license. I want to make more money. Don't steal my money. That's funny. That's a funny comment. Um, I've been thinking about it. I think Tesla will allow anyone with a car to join their robotaxi service, regardless if they pay 200 per month or not. That's interesting. Um, Maybe they would, but then maybe Tesla gets a bigger cut of it, right? That's a good point. Yeah. So what if you paid for FSD beta? What if you paid for FSD beta and you get to keep 70% of everything that you make? But if you didn't buy FSD beta, it's like a 30-70 split. That's interesting. That's really interesting. Each robotaxi could go 100K, could do 100K a year. And at $1 a mile and half the time driving a fair rider, that's 50K a year per car. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. But 100,000. Oh, I see what you're saying. So okay, so you are accounting for the miles driven without a rider. All right, yeah, good on you, Marty. Good on you for doing that, because that's what I was gonna say. Are we double counting here? So yeah, no, this is a great point. Yeah, and so if you're making 50K a year on that, right? Let's say, well, forget about taxes. All right. Well, no, let's talk about taxes, right? So let's say you take out, I don't know, 30%. So that's 15 grand. So you're making 35 a year. You know, it's not long before you make your money back, especially if you buy it right now for 15K. And it's what, like 2 or 3 years before you pay off your car with that, depending on what you're driving. Let's see. The $200 would be for person. Yeah, agreed. Let's see. I think this is what saves Ford. FSD gets a share of Robotaxi. Yep, I'm with you on that. Oh, I sold all Tesla shares. Musk is hyping FSD level 2. The big money is FSD level 4. I'm not. Ooh, hate to be you in the end of the year. Let's see. Hardware 5 coming this year. Have no idea what it is. Hardware 4 is just getting. Oh yeah, Hardware 5 is way, way, way out. It's like 2 or 3 years out. Hardware 4 just came out. Hardware 4 is 5 megapixel cameras. It's way crisper, way crisper. I'll tell you that right now. The greens are brighter, the blacks are darker. but it's up to it's like 20 cores, way more RAM, way more memory. So yeah, way more cores, way more memory. It's a much bigger computer. Margins will decline to 10%, just like any car company. Oh, John Nelson, we got ourselves a bear here. I'll put money on this is wrong. Well, they will not to drop down to 10%. Almost guarantee that. I think Hardware 5 will come 2027, 2028. Yep, agreed. Elon said they're working on it now. Yeah, well, of course they are. Right? Of course they are. Uh, They started working on Dojo 2 before Dojo was even completed. It's what they do. 3-year cycle before release. Yeah, that does seem to be the iteration, doesn't it? Let's see. Toyota does 37 trillion in revenue, but people think Tesla had a good Q2. Man, I don't know who this John Nelson guy is, but geez, like, do you realize how many more vehicles Toyota sells than Tesla? And you're bragging about 37 trillion? Like, I wouldn't be bragging about that at all. Toyota revenue is impressive, but profit not so much. I know exactly. It's like saying, "Hey, I make $3 million a year, but I have bills of $2,970,000." Like, oh, okay, so you only take home 30 grand a year. It's not a big deal. Like, meanwhile, you have someone else who's like, "Hey, I make 100 grand a year, and I take home 90 grand a year. Who would you rather be?" Like, yeah, that's not great. Well, let's continue with John here. These are interesting. Tesla's profit is declining. Um, I guess that's a true statement to an extent. Toyota does 10 million cars per year and declining. Toyota isn't growing any longer. Japan is in trouble for not jumping on the EV wave. Yeah, 100%. 6% adjusted gross margin. Yeah, that's not great. Oh, profit margins. This is a funny debate here. All right. Anyways, um, let's move off this guy. Let's see. Oh yeah, appreciate that, DRK. But yeah, please do hit like and support the stream. I'd appreciate that. Let's see what else we got besides the drama, the John Nelson drama. Let's see. Would you retire with 44,200 sales of Tesla at 92 average price? I don't know. What does that come out to? Let's see. 44,200 average price 92. I mean, I can tell you the answer is yes already. Yep. If that's your average price, and right now we're at 280. Yeah, let's see. What's that come out to today's price? Times, what are we at? 260? I do that right? 44,200. Yep. Yeah. So you're asking me if with 11 million, or was that million, right? No. Yeah, 11 million. So $11.5 million would you retire? Would I? I don't know. I don't know if I would. It depends. It depends. It depends what I'm doing. I like what I'm doing right now. I enjoy what I do right now for work. I'm kind of in a building phase. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know when I'll retire. Uh, maybe, maybe in a few years. We'll see. We'll see what happens with Tesla. Let's see. 69 more likes, please. I would agree with that. Let's see. To repeat myself, Tesla would be a total fail if not for the charging network. Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It will fail without level 4 FSD, which requires a hell of a lot of regulatory approval. Not really, if you think about it. Here's where it's great that Tesla's on a state-by-state basis, or that these regulations are on a state-by-state basis. Because while, yes, it would be great and a lot easier if it was done at a federal level, That way, once it's done, it's just a matter of like, stroking a pen or giving the regulation saying, yep, we can do it anywhere. But with robotaxis and FSD, full self driving, going state by state, this prevents any kind of issues where the federal government tries to block this. So it gives the rights back to the states and allows states to make their own decision. This is good for Tesla because this way there's no politics or anything that can come into it, right? You can't have like an Elizabeth Warren who has has an axe to grind with Elon, try to put pressure on a Democrat president or regulator or whatever or NHTSA to stop this from going out there. Right? It allows states to do their own thing. So, for example, in Florida, this is going to go. This is going to happen, right? Arizona is clearly going to happen. Texas will be fine, right? I imagine North Carolina is a big tech hub there. I'm sure that'll be fine. I imagine a city like Boston would be open to this. But, then you get Washington, D.C. I don't know. Who knows what happens there? California, who knows what happens there? I mean, they're allowing Waymo and Cruise, but maybe they don't allow it further outside the city. But again, remember, FSD beta is going now, and there's very little regulation on that, and it's being allowed to test everywhere. So I don't really know how much of a hurdle regulation is going to be on any of this, especially when they have the data to show it's working well and working better than humans. And again, I don't think FSD. I don't think FSD has to have zero crashes, zero accidents, and zero people killed for it to be allowed out. It just has to be a lot better than a human, right? It just becomes a numbers game. Like, do you want to have less people dying or more people? There's 1 million people a year that die from car accidents, and another 10 million who have severe injuries. And I think like number one death of infants or toddlers, not even toddlers, of people under 18. I think like the number one cause of death is automobiles. So yeah, it just becomes kind of crazy to not let the stuff out there. Let's see. How many shares to retire on Tesla in 2030? That's a good question. My advice to people who are trying to answer this would be to work around and none of this financial advice, but this is like kind of my mental model is I assume that we'll be at 1,500 a share by 2030. 15, not 3,000, not 2,000, 2027 like ARK Invest says. I tried to be a little more conservative, and even 1,500 is like pretty damn bullish, right? That's almost a 10x. But 1,500 by 2030 is what I anticipate. And so if you take 1,500 and you got to figure out what you need on a per month basis to live on. So figure out what your monthly expenditures are. Take that, multiply that by 20 or by 12. Take that, multiply that by 20. If your take home pay, if your month to month or your annual number there is over 83,350 and you're married, factor in taxes, factor in long-term capital gain taxes, right? Do the math, figure out what you need, times it by 20 or 25, depending on what rule you want to go for. Take that number, divide that by $1,500 a share, then you know roughly what your share count should be. So that's how I do it. Hopefully that made sense. I personally believe in the rule of 5%. Rule 4% is fine, but it's like the 5% rule is like 98% chance of never drawing down from your nest egg. So the competition has arrived to buy the software. Oh, that's good. Oh, that is good. That is really good. That needs to be a headline for someone. That's brilliant. That guy's mistaken. Toyota does 37 trillion yen annual revenue. In dollars, it's around 280. Okay, that makes way more sense. That makes way more sense. Yeah, that guy's that seemed off. I was going to say because I think Ford does more than that, right? I think Ford, yeah. Because now I'm thinking about it. I don't follow Toyota that much, but I think Ford and GM do like 50 billion a quarter or something like that. So yeah, this makes so much more sense. Most Democrats can't afford Tesla. I don't know. I think there's a lot of really wealthy Democrats, so I wouldn't be saying that. Tesla's still working on permits for insurance makes it. Yeah, but I think this is a little different. I don't think this is as urgent, and insurance is way more complicated, I think, than the regulators would be for FSD. Regulation makes sense on robotaxis, but not on FSD. That's valid. That's very valid. I can't argue. That is a very valid point. 1,500 by 2027. Fine by that. You won't see me complaining. Um, I could see that happening. I mean, it's really all predicated on FSD. FSD is going to determine everything. Listen, if FSD is better than a human by the end of this year, like Elon is saying, if it gets there, that means that they're going to release a robotaxi and next gen vehicle sooner than later. Cybertruck's going to be out. We're going to start seeing more and more people talking about FSD like, I don't do anything. It just works. It works all the time. Like, there's nothing you have to do. It's just perfect. And it's just going to get better and better and better. The stock's going to be running, right? Like, if that happens, the stock's going to be running well before 2027, right? The market's going to try to front run this. Just like the market right now is front running the Fed being done. Sure, we might get another rate hike this week. Whoop-de-doo, Basil. Who cares? We know it's going to be the last one. If not, at most, there's one left. But look at true-flation. Look at the market. We're at 3% on CPI. Like, it's over. We know this. So the way I look at it, everything's going to get front run. But we need to get to that point. We need to see FSD better than a human. That's all it really has to do, in my opinion, for the stock to run. And it will run before, right? So I don't know. That's how I look at it. And to be better than a human, in my opinion, Tesla needs to start incorporating it needs to start incorporating parking lots into the stack, not just highway and city streets. You need to incorporate parking lots. Looked up Toyota revenue, 37 trillion looked way too high. Trailing 12 months. Oh, I didn't even realize he said trillion before. Oh, I should have caught that. Okay, trailing 12 months revenue for 251 billion. Okay, that makes so much more sense. So much more sense. Like I said, this is my conservative outlook, right? I used 1,500. It's my Ron Barron number. The way I look at it is Ron Barron has historically been very conservative with Tesla, but he's been right. And so the way I look at it, hey, if Ron Barron says 1,500 by 2030, if Elon says 1,500 by 2030, and Elon's been very conservative too in the past, like, so they're saying that. So that's my mental model. So I use that number, and I figure out how many shares I need to where I would be like, all right, that's it. Like, I can't keep working. It's just stupid for me to keep working. My time is just so much more valuable than this. And I work backwards from that. So that's how I look at it. So again, yeah, I really do think this is conservative. We'd probably be closer to 3,000 if I was being honest. But again, I'll take 1,500. I'll take that. I'm fine with that. You beat me to it, David. You both of you spot on calling that out. First of all, I didn't even see the T for trillion. I thought he had a B for billion, or so 37 billion. I was like, are you bragging about that? And I was thinking about it, but I don't have it in front of me. I don't follow Toyota that much, but I knew it had to be more than that. Because again, I think Ford and GM tend to do like 50 billion. Ford is a little less, I think. But so those numbers just didn't seem right to me. So thank you so much for calling that out, guys. That's the thing. Sometimes, like, when you're just going, you're like, oh, something didn't seem right, but I'm not going to interrupt my flow of thought for some naysayer here. Although maybe I should have. Not worth it. I want the stock to press for the next few weeks so I can afford to buy more. Yeah. You know what I'm really bad about? I'm really bad about this. I will know, like I talked to you guys before, like I know what my cash flow is every month that I end up putting into Tesla stock. And for those of you who don't know, I'm all in on Tesla stock outside of real estate. So it's not just me, right? Me and my wife, right? We're just all on Tesla stock. And so we know like what our cash flow that we're going to put into Tesla every month is. And I have such a bad habit of where it'll be like, I don't know, like 3 weeks before I have that cash flow, I'm like, I'll just go ahead and buy it. It's like, I feel like these prices are depressed. Like when Tesla stock went down just now, I'm like, I'm not waiting until the end of the month. I'm buying now. So I have a bad habit of doing that. I don't recommend you guys do that. That's me trying to time the market, which you shouldn't do. I'm really bad at it too. But I'm very, very good at finding companies that have long-term growth that I've been excellent at over the course of my investment career, which is why I am where I'm at. Anyways, September will be a time to remember. September, Yeah, I mean, September could be very bullish. It could be, we could know that Kika Mexico is going, might be Cybertruck delivery time, might be AI day. Like it could be big. And is that yeah, that's the end of the quarter, right? Yeah, it could be great. And who knows, maybe with Cybertruck, Highland, and all that happening. Ooh, yeah, getting me excited here before I have to go to bed. Internet and games and robotaxis will be provided by Starlink. Oh, yeah, I could see that. Maybe we're both just setting the record straight. Love the camaraderie here. All right, we're looking to get more of those red days. uh, Uh, all right, we have to get some green days too eventually, everybody. So yeah, let's get a string of them in here as well. Let's not forget about the green. FSD is an easy 10x. Who'd buy another car brand if Tesla drives? Yeah, that's been my thesis for forever now. The day that FSD is solved and they have it and it's better than human, the day that happens and you start having like Ross Gerber and Ives and Gary Black and all these people go on CNBC, all this stuff like, oh, it's better than a human now. Oh, it's better. It's for a fact better than a human. And all that narrative starts spreading. And like people already think of Teslas as cars that drive themselves, right? Like we were in Boston and my wife's brother, so my brother-in-law, um, he was sitting there saying, oh, but you have a Tesla. Didn't it just drive itself up here? And I was like, oh, yeah. And he knows nothing about Tesla. They know nothing about it. But that's just the assumption people have is that Teslas drive themselves. 1,500 by 20 after three splits. Again, I would love that. I hope you guys are all right. AIX. Next test split is around $1,000. There'll be a lot of Teslaires then. There'll be a bunch of Teslaires then. There'll be more. Yeah, it'll be insane how many Teslaires there are then. All right, everybody. Look, I got to go. I smell food upstairs. And as much as I love all of you, I love food more. Yeah. Food, Tesla, my wife, not in that order. Not in that order. It's wife, food, Tesla, you guys. All right. Don't forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Appreciate you guys spending your Sunday evening with me. Go enjoy some food. Have fun talking to you guys. You had fun with that one bear, whoever's in here, who thinks that Tesla's never going to do anything. Can't wait to prove you wrong. All right. Love you all. Have a good one. Cheers.